Good morning, good morning. Hello, everyone. Wait just a moment to have you guys pop on. Get comments up here. Happy Tuesday. All right, found you. It's unbelievable that Christmas is, a week away? Week and a couple days. The end of this year is just flying by. Growing season will be here in no time. All right, message in if you guys can hear me. Good morning, Tina. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. We've had some pretty nice weather here in the last couple days. Good morning, Christina. It's been we've had a couple all 4 seasons in one day, which is typical for Michigan, but it's definitely been interesting. Morning and Merry Christmas season. Merry Christmas. Good morning, good morning. Hello, Corey. Hello, Ugly Homestead. We're going to be talking about starting or using your own garden as a CSA. I was first. Christina, you're doing so good. Merry Christmas. Nice to see you all. So yeah, we're going to be talking about basically starting your own CSA. If this is anything that interests, a lot of you guys were interested in it last week to hear about the possibility. And I'm glad we're doing it because CSAs don't have to be this massive operation, where you have 100 members or 50 members or what have you. Good morning. Question once you get going. Kyle, tell me your question. Go for it. Furiously Google CSA. Okay, so CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. Sorry, Michelle's out the window. It stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And a CSA is a membership-based program. People have the opportunity to purchase basically a share of your growing space. Your garden, your farm, whatever you call it, they can purchase a share of it. I'm trying to start a bouquet CSA. Candace, this will definitely parallel because I do both vegetables and flowers for my CSA. I made it. Hello, LP. Hello. Alexander, you crack me up. I just keep seeing your message. We are in the upper 60s, going around 77 in East Texas. Brag some more, it's fine. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually not bad here. For middle of December, we got it ranges. It's been weird. We've been in the 40s to 60s, which is just unheard of. And then we hit, 28. So it's been weird. I'd love to grow for a CSA. Okay, I'm so glad about this. I think we got more people. Good morning, Wicked Awesome. Let's dive. Okay, so like I said, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. Kyle, I see your question. I will hit it. This year I needed to keep mouse slugs off. Kyle, I'll give you a minute right at the end. Just remind me Brussels sprouts and we'll hit that. Okay, community supported agriculture. People can buy a share of your growing space is how it works. So this will be now my 3rd year. Y'all know Farmer Jake left me to go do his own big bad thing, which is awesome. And so it's just me. I have how mine works. I'll just give you my gist, and then I'll go over kind of the options on how you can set something up. So I have members purchase into my farm prior to my growing season. I usually open sales in January to February. I'm not quite to the point where I can open them earlier. A lot of CSAs, once they have their traction and they have their members coming back, it's easy for them to get the sales right after their last season ends. People already buy in for the next year. The following growing season after this one, I'm hoping to do that. But right now I'm doing just a January, February where they can buy in. I have them pay in full. I do have an option if they want to pay half and pay half at the beginning of the season. We can work that out too, but it's encouraged to pay full. What you want to do is you explain to your members why paying in full benefits everyone. Their money coming in supports your farm for that season. It helps you start all your plants. It helps you with your time spent out there, all of your materials you use. And then for my members, they get a produce box and or flowers every week for the allotted weeks in my CSA program. So that is the gist of it. Let me see if I can catch up on you guys. Thank you. Started a CSA 2 years ago for my garden and was able to supply 12 shares with a 3,000 square foot garden for the season and do farmers markets too. I love that you put how many shares you had in how big your garden was, because that's super helpful for people wondering if they can support. Now, if you're wondering if you can support, using to send. If you are wondering if you can support, I want you to think back of your growing season and what you produced this year. Do you have enough for certain things? Where can you add so you can produce more for a family? I'll usually add, like at the beginning, I added, I'm trying to think of my numbers. I was aiming for like 2 tomato, depending on the tomato, like 2 tomato plants a family, like 2 peppers, a hot and a sweet, a family. And that was like a general gist for me, but that gave me access to go do the things I needed to do after, like markets and such. Going back to the beginning, if you are choosing to start a CSA, you're gonna start small. I have a girlfriend over in a nearing city, and she started with 3. And that's a good bite to take off too, because you are providing food for 3 families on top of your own family. Typically a box, so a produce box for the week, consists of 6 to 8 seasonal vegetables. And for me in my area, it values around $25, $20 to $25. Now these are things that you adjust. The value of your box, how many things will be in it, and the cost of your box. But that's typically mine. 6 to 8 seasonal vegetables for my summer to harvest series. And it values around $25. And that doesn't necessarily mean each box will always value that, but my average is. So I may have a box that values at $30 and I have a box that values a little less. And eventually they'll all balance each other out, so they're getting their average fill throughout, because some produce is more expensive than others. A good thing to have on hand is you can just Google produce value in your state. So I can look up Michigan produce value, and I'll typically get a form either by an extension or ahead of a market. We'll put something like this together and discuss or list out what each produce will cost to the consumer. And that's a really good tool to have. 3 sounds smart and doable if something fails. 3 does sound smart and doable, but 1 also sounds smart and doable. This season, try one family. 1, 2, any of that. Nothing is technically too small. And like I said, you can pick how long you want to do it too. My main one is long. It's 13 weeks. Before it was 9. So I stretched mine out this year. And I have a little break in between. You want to pay attention to knowing when your things come in too. So like when you're taking harvest in. That'll come into play on what dates you're going to choose to host your CSA as well. Having never participated in a CSA, what to change or what to offer each week? Great questions. So as we do this, I'm going to kind of pull up some of my boxes just for examples. I should already have this pulled up, guys. Slacking. All right, as I'm searching that. So your boxes are going to change a little bit. If you're going to do it, I suggest doing just a one. If you're just starting, a one span. Like mine is broken up into seasons. Don't start there. Start just a one span and gain some customers. So for instance, in the beginning of the season, you're going to have your greens, some herbs, and then I typically will do some additives if I don't have enough variety. Oh, I have no service in the building today, guys. I'm getting my box up. So if I can think back to my first box this year, I had, oh, there it is. Ha. I found it. I'm going to show you guys through the screen. I had mixed greens. I had herbs. I had lettuce, or romaine, I'm sorry. I had romaine lettuce, radishes, and then I needed a little extra, so I did 2 additives. I did a tea, 3 bags of a drinking tea, and I did chive blossom vinegar. Okay, so here's my CSA spread. This was my first box this year. So I chose to do a couple homemade options that I knew my members would like, and that really filled out my box the first year. Hey Carmen, how are you? List of what sells best. I don't want you to think of it in that way. We're not thinking of what sells best because your boxes are your boxes. When you're thinking of list of what sells best, that's almost in more of like a market market standpoint. What's going to sell best at my booth? Now, as long as you sell your box, what you put in it is what's going to sell, right? You're not going to be, they're not choosing what goes in their box every year. It's teaching your clientele to eat farm fresh and to eat what's in season and what's there at the time. What if you're growing rare vegetables like black beauties? How would you price those? Just a little more. Yeah, know your worth and know what you grow. All of that can come into play and can increase your value a little more. So my first year, I did all heirloom, and I could price just a little more. And I mean, this is for market too. I can price my tomatoes and stuff at market a little more. What's Haley's IG? It's MIgardener at MIgardener. I'm thinking of an email. At MIgardener. Great info. Awesome. So even though you're growing black beauty tomatoes, it's going to balance out with your other things too. You can price yourself a little higher when you know that you're growing varieties that no one else gets, but also the benefit of growing varieties that no one else really sees in the stores or in farmers markets is to build your clientele. They will know that they're getting things that they've never heard of, never seen, and that will help build your clientele and keep having people come back the next year. Yes, a giant crimson is coming, guys. It's coming. Okay, let's see. So, number. If you're just starting out, I wouldn't go above 3. I wouldn't, and that's honestly the high end. 1 to 2 people, and get a feel for it. How I priced my CSA is I looked at other CSAs around my area, and I'm, I didn't want to be the highest. I obviously didn't want to be the lowest. I'm like a high middle. So I go middle of the ground, but I'm not the highest out there. This way it made me competitive in the market. Now, I did luck out. In my direct area in Richmond, Michigan, we really didn't have much. There are a couple, but fortunately, I guess, they weren't well known. Not well advertised, but not well known. Extra work couple in the area that used to do a CSA. Yes, that's another good add-on. I'm going to get to that, Dusty and Chelsea. Nice. Lost my train of thought, guys. Okay. When you are offering a service like this, it's going to be really important to train your clientele. You want to be able to offer them something that adds value to their life, of course, right? But I don't ever want you guys to undersell yourself. Now, this is something I did my first year and a half, really. And I know some people have mixed views on this. So what I'm talking about is delivery. My first year, I took shares from pretty wide ranged. I knew a lot of my people, which made me feel better about offering it so wide. And I'm a little bit of a people pleaser if you don't know me already. I did deliveries and I didn't charge for them. And I want you to know that the wear and tear on yourself and your vehicle is a value to you. So make sure you're not undervaluing yourself. This year, I have put in a delivery fee. Now, if they're right in the Richmond area, I will most likely, I'm toying with it. It might be a couple bucks a week, or I might just deliver Richmond, and that's fine. So many miles from my farm. All in one day, all at one time. Make it as easy as possible. They need to fit in your schedule, not the other way around, because remember, they're purchasing your system, your share. So make sure that when you're talking delivery, you're valuing yourself. Now, if they're outside of this space for me, I have put in a $10 delivery fee. I've gotten my number from other shares and farms, again, in the Metro Detroit area, and that seems to be a good solid number. So it will be $10 a delivery. So each week, say they only need 1 week delivered, say they need every week delivered, it'll be a $10 fee on top of their share for me to be able to do that. I love baking. That's awesome because that's something you can include in your CSA, and we'll get to that. So delivery. Make sure if you are going to be delivering, make sure it's worth your value. Now, when I said train your customers, don't be afraid to say pickup is at my farm, or pickup is at the park and I'm gonna be there from this time to this time. Come get your stuff. I know some places that set their times, and this is gonna be similar to what I do. I'll have 2 nights a week that my pickups will be. They have to come between a certain time frame. And then if they don't come and they're not interested in the delivery and they're okay to pass, that box will probably just be donated to someone who needs it. Or if I know ahead of time, I just won't prepare that box for them. Remember, they're purchasing your share and don't undervalue yourself. That is like my biggest push. So my first year, we had 11. And even if I took out what I put back into the farm for infrastructure and such, like I wasn't making money because of wear and tear on my car, because I wasn't paying, like considering what I would be paying myself. I understand when starting a business, you have to put your time in basically for free, until you can get it rolling. But I also think maybe you don't have to do that. So know that you can charge your people what they need to charge, and not everyone's your customer. And those who really can see the value in it will be there. Do you have the CSA info in a blog? I don't, but I will today. I will, it'll go out Thursday, but that is what I'm writing on today because I have lots of notes, which was good for me because I just got it all down in one spot. Value add. That's where I want to go next. We've talked about number, how many I consider or I think you should do if you're just starting, 1 to 3. 1 is fine. 3 could be a bite, so just make sure you have the space. You don't ever want to oversell your product and not have enough, but a way to balance that is more of a co-op standard. So this is that value add that I want to talk about. For this year, I wanted to bring more to my customers than they've had before. So last year they had just produce and just flowers. that was it. But my dream and my vision is for my members to be able to eat homemade, farm fresh all year long. I have, so I went out and I found in my area a source for eggs. I found a source for, we got lots of window lookers today. So I have a source for eggs. I have a source for sourdough bread. And I have a source for cheese now. I have divvied things up a little bit, and I'm now getting my herbs from a different farm. Another friend wanted somehow to get into it, and I decided herbs wasn't something I need to grow on that high-end scale. And when she's already doing it so much for the soup company she works for, she's going to now supply my herbs for my boxes. So this is something I've been diving into in the last 6 months, is a cooperative system in our hometown. So I've gotten together with a group of 5 women, and we all offer something different, and our goal is to make things accessible. I started this term this week. We want to make sure that these families have the ability to get not only produce, but they can get baked goods, they can get dairy products, all locally. Can you guys hear me? Someone said they're having trouble with sound. I want to make sure everyone can hear me. So like the video, give me a thumbs up, something. Inspection, but you have to sell face-to-face cap. Yes. Cottage food industry. So the cottage law, yes, Sue. We're going to get into legalities a little bit here in a hot second. I'm just catching up, making sure I didn't miss anything, guys. Sound fine. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. So it might have been on your end, Carmen. It might get risky including pre-made food items, I'm sure, here. And yes, so we're going to get into legalities. Don't worry. Ooh. A lot of people don't know what all is involved when farming. Chicken patty, I don't know if that was to something else or if that's just a generic comment going out. That's true. If you're considering doing this, you have to know that your garden, your farm takes work. You basically have self-employed, you're self-employed now. You're providing for a customer, and that customer is relying on you. You are relying on that customer to build your business from word of mouth and just from happy comments back, right? So you have to put the work in. If, say, you get your whole garden planted, you're gung-ho, but you just don't get out watering it, or you don't find a way to make sure that happens, it's gonna be a problem because they are relying on you. So I don't want you guys to underestimate what goes into it. Now, when I'm saying adding a person or two, the idea I got it from was a friend nearby who, like I said, just added 1 or 2 people to her garden because she knew she was putting off so much extra produce. And she was, you have the option to can it, or you can grow enough to do both. Like, all of that is possible. Lots of work and worry. It can be lots of work. But remember, we have talked about so many different processes to put in place to limit your work too. So I don't want you guys to count this possibility out, right? With mulching for water retention, with the different methods of planting and co-planting and intercropping and all of these things we have talked about on these episodes. We're almost at episode 50. That's next week. We have talked about so many different practices that hopefully you guys are slowly incorporating into your gardens, which will help make this whole process easier. If you're pruning properly, it's not going to be such a drag. It's not going to be so much work. If you're mulching, you're not going to have the weed pressure, and you're not going to have the drying out of your soil so frequently. So putting these things into place really will help you. Your garden is your team. Your mulch is your team. It's got a job. Everything has a job in your garden. Just make sure you're using it. It's worth every ounce of energy and care. It really is. It is. We're getting close to our end. We got about 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure you guys are sending in questions. I haven't forgot the Brussels sprout question. I will hit it at the end, I promise. Okay. Two things so legalities. You do have to look into your Google in your area what it is to sell these things. I lucked out my first year. I sold to basically family and friends, and I might have skated a little bit because I was learning. I wasn't technically a business yet. So now that I've become a business, I've had to look into legalities. Cottage law is a big one. You have to look at the processes you have to put into place to be able to offer like baked goods, canned items. So make sure you're looking into those in your area. And it's silly for me to even describe what my laws are because they might be different for you. Do you make your mulch or purchase it? I will make as much as I can, but because I started so big so quick, I did purchase a lot of wood chips from a friend's landscaping company. If I have the ability to make it and do it, I will do it that way. We collect a lot of yard scraps too. We contact tree companies to drop it off. There's many ways. You can do leaf mold mulch. You can just do chopped leaves. We talked about that last week, I think, 2 weeks ago, something like that. So you can shred your own leaves and use it. You can use pine for certain beds. We have pine needles up the wazoo, so we use a lot of that. You can do both. No way is necessarily better than the other as long as you know where you're sourcing things from. Except cleaning the chicken coop. Yes. Now, as long as you're not cleaning it all the time. Like I do a deep bedding method, so I don't clean mine all the time. It's just it's like twice a year that my coop gets a really good cleaning. Cool. I want to talk about packaging. That's going to be important too. Chip drop. Chip drop is awesome if they come to you. I've signed up for chip drop at many locations, like multiple family addresses, and I've never gotten it. So I don't know if it's real. So packaging. I started off with, like I said, it was just close family that I was feeding out of my garden. I picked up like basically plastic buckets from the Dollar Tree because I needed something quick and easy and didn't cost me a ton of money because I wasn't making money that year. And then I had like clamshell I got from a bulk restaurant store, the plastic bags that like my lettuce was in, all of that. Like you want to make sure you're packaging your things appropriately. And then I've gotten to the point now where I can be a little more sustainable with that because obviously that's the goal. So now I have like not that it wasn't food grade before, they were, but I have like reusable food grade. So my boxes are it's got like a plastic coating on the inside. They're produce boxes. I got them from Uline. Those are my weekly boxes, and my members are going to be coming with their own basket to open their box and to take everything out into theirs. I have like the pressed cardboard, like fruit baskets you get at the store or at farmers markets. Those are something that I'm holding a lot of my or packaging a lot of my produce in this year. And so I want to make sure you guys are finding things that you're packaging in. Now, when I say reusable, my boxes are reusable, but if they were to give me those pressed containers back, those can't be reusable, unfortunately, with my fresh produce that goes out. So this is where the legalities come into it as well. You have to be able to stand the standards of what you can package in and how frequently you can use it. Technically, even if I were to wrap, say, a bunch of kale in a rubber band, I can't use that rubber band again on a bunch of kale. But I can use it on my flowers, because that's not something consumed. So make sure you're looking into all that as well. What's your favorite hot pepper? I really enjoy, honestly, I just grow the Hungarians. Hungarian hot and Hungarian sweet. The wax peppers, and they're not the only ones. I grow bells and whatnot too. But I grow 1 or 2 habanero plants just for some hot sauce. Other than that, no. No. Okay, let me see. I try to send in your questions. What do you guys want to know? Bring their own basket. Yes, I heard that from another CSA farm and loved it. So basically, you set out your pickup. They find their box with their name on it. They open it up. They fill their basket and they fold their box up. Like your customers are capable. So that's part of they're not going to leave all these open stand-up boxes. Take it out. You fold your box and you set it in this pile. And that's one less thing for you to do too. Hello, all. Hey, Robin. Bags from old clothing, jeans, washable and reusable, cheap and cute. For what? For what? I make drawstring bags out of old pants. Oh, like as in what you would go pick it up in? That would be okay because it's your own produce. So for those of you just catching up, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. It's where members buy a share of your farm and get to enjoy farm fresh produce, flowers, whatever you have all season long. Hey Carol, how are you today? All right, you guys aren't giving me any questions. Give me something. Give me something. So I want to go over a couple more of my boxes so that way you can hear a little more of what I've done. So I had a box, let's see what week this was. It was my first cherry tomatoes coming in. Week 4, I had zucchini, summer squash, onion, cherry tomatoes, kale, shallots, and basil. Can you see these when I do this? So this was my box. A big thing that I hear a lot, and I hear it most often from like Reels, TikToks, whatever, videos. Take pictures of your things. Post them online. People don't know you have them until you do it. Take pictures, post them online as much as you can. Yes, Kyle, I know. We're almost done. That has meaning. It's not a new acronym, Jackie. I did see the first one. It's not a new one. It's been around for a very long time. I don't know the actual year, but it has been around a long time. So this one is in regard to produce and farming. There, how many varieties do you include in your box? Good question. So each box contains 6 to 8 seasonal vegetables, seasonal varieties. So, What month do you start your tomato seedlings? It's another good question. These were from your CSA. Yeah, Carol, this was mine. The ones that I crappily show you because I didn't print pictures. Oh, Robin, I'm so glad you asked that. That's on my list too. What month do you start your tomato seedlings? If I'm growing them just for my farm, it's typically 8 weeks. And I'm probably going to stick with that. This year, I've been toying with the idea of starting them maybe a week or two early. But then again, that's more work for me because I'll have to pot them up appropriately. But 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost date. Your last frost date is important. Make sure you know what that is. You can Google it with your zip code. How do you communicate with your customers for what is available? Love this. My first year, I didn't have one really. I had the intentions of doing a newsletter, but I was having so much trouble. It wasn't going to my members' emails. Honestly, I got frustrated, a little overwhelmed. Sometimes I like to put too much on my plate. That was one of them. But my customers were awesome. They knew me. I could at least talk to them when I dropped off. Remember, I delivered my first year. Have a newsletter. There are many platforms out there that lets you do a free newsletter that will email out to them each week. Now, there's more benefits than just them knowing what's going to be in your box. You are building an email list, and that is obviously super important for future growth. Good morning, Chris. Email lists, whether we're into the new like social media way of life, email list is one of the best ways to grow your business. Having that contact, that intimacy contact is really great. Now, in your emails, it's also great to include recipes for unknown items. This is something that if I had my email or my newsletter go out, I wouldn't have had so much trouble with this. So I grew different things that I knew a lot of people didn't know about. Like rutabaga. I grew rutabaga and kohlrabi, and a lot of people didn't know what to do with them. And so they would text me, and that would take my time, or they would, I'd have to stay and talk about it more, so that would take more of my time on different recipes or how they're going to use it, where this season in my newsletter, there will be recipe options. I'm to the point where I'm at a website now, so I'm working on building that, and my website will contain all the produce I plan on growing, along with links to many different recipes for each item. That way it's work on me now in the winter, less work on me in the spring and summer when I'm out in the farm. So make sure you have some sort of mailing list. Where did that go? I have an unrelated question. There's no question in there, Christina. Put your beds to rest. You're tired. Already filled a bin for leaf compost, but haven't put my beds completely. Just make sure they're covered. Having your soil covered, even in the winter, is so important. Make sure your soil is covered, guys. How much land do you dedicate to your CSA? That's a very good question. So it's going to be different for everyone. It's going to be different for how many people you have. I know if you're doing intense gardening, you can support a good amount of people on, let's see, like a 1/4 acre garden. Like I know a farm who has a 1/4 acre, and I think they have 15 members, and they do some intense gardening. So they don't even just garden on the floor. They go vertical. They succession plant, which I'm building my succession plan right now for both produce and flowers. That's going to be another episode because that is a thing in itself, and I have a lot to say about that. So we will be talking about that here in the next couple weeks, probably right after the holiday. But these are things that you can put in place to make sure you're in season all year long. Succession planting is very important. So it can be small, is what I'm saying. It was a comment almost at the beginning of the show. It was a 3,000 square foot garden, and was it 2 or 3 CSAs they held off of that garden? So that was a good number, and that worked for them. Are the concerns about food allergies as the customers? It would be the customer's responsibility to decline certain items in the box. I'm to the point where they're going to have the option to... my first year, I did not give them the option to swap things out, and that was okay. That's a good way to start. Because you want to encourage them to eat the foods, obviously, even if it's an unknown food. So you do want to encourage them. I'm at the point where I am giving them an option for a swap, just in case they still have something from last week, or it's something their family just truly does not like. So if someone had a food allergy, I would think they're going to let you know immediately coming into it. If they're like, I cannot have broccoli, can't have it, you should know that right off the bat. That could be something you include in your sign up, that they should tell you if there's something they cannot have. So that should be majority on them, majority. How do you know what is being fed to the chickens when I purchase an egg, CSA? How do I know? Ask them. Like, this is info that is, if someone is wanting to sell their product, they should be telling you these things. If they're not telling you these things, maybe it's not the best place to purchase from. Where I'm getting my eggs from, it's all organic feed that they get. I know they are well cared for and well loved. I've seen the chickens. I know where they live. So ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're purchasing into a CSA this year, ask all the questions. Take all the questions you got from here and go ask them. Ask them how big their gardens are. Ask them what they're growing. Have them give you a list. These are all don't be afraid to offend someone. You're not gonna. Honestly, if you're like me, I love talking about my garden, so you can ask me any question you want. Could you have recipe cards printed up that you could add to your CSA box? Absolutely. Now, if you have less people, I think that's a great idea. I want you to consider what it is, the cost behind it, your time to set it up, your time to print it, your money to print it, etc. And know at how many people in your CSA does that recipe card need to transition into your newsletter. Doing it both ways is great. Having it in your newsletter is a one-stop shop and accessible on their phone. So say they pick their box up and, they looked at it, they set it down at home, they're like, I gotta run to the grocery store and get some chicken, whatever it is. And they're like, oh crap, I had a rutabaga in there. How do I do this? They can pull your newsletter up and already see recipes for it and say, oh, I need this seasoning or what have you. So good. There's pros and cons to have it a physical recipe card. I'm a physical recipe card gal. Most of my people want it in the newsletter. Yes, my sister was in a group and they met in a parking lot to pick up boxes. Worked out great for all, saved the grower dropping off all over town, kept box price down a bit too. Win-win. Absolutely, Kyle. That is perfect. Daikon radish. I grow daikon radish. I'm curious why you put that in there. Our last frost date is May 11th. Yours is the 1st. At least you're closer. What are the insurance and liabilities? You're going to have to look them up in your area. Farm insurance may be something you need. But most farm insurances I looked at were more for people who are coming onto your property. Just sharing produce, selling produce, doesn't necessarily need one here for me. So you're going to have to look those up in your own area, but make sure it's on your checklist. On your website, could you provide boxes they could choose from? Now, this is where it comes to make sure you're not overextending yourself. Boxes you could choose from. Are you saying like this week you can pick box A, B, or C? The reason I wouldn't encourage that is that's going to be a lot of work on yourself. You know what's going in your box based on what is producing in your garden right now. And what you need to get rid of out of your garden too. What needs to go. So, like I said, this year I'm offering the option to swap one item. And that's it. One item a week they can swap. And that I know gives them a little more freedom. And it also makes sure that I'm not overextending myself and I don't get to a place of waste. So keep that in mind. In our farm basket, we get a newsletter with recipes, but on special holidays, they include cards. I like that a lot. Yeah, like say you're getting close to, you want to include handwritten cards. You have less people. Handwritten cards for Thanksgiving recipes, or holiday recipes. I would love that. I love handwritten recipe cards. So that would be really cool and a really cool value add. So definitely keep that in mind. One better than the other. Selling at farmers markets versus CSA. Now, is one better than the other? Sure. Both of them take on most likely the same amount of farm work, including growing, maintaining, and harvesting, right? Now, CSA includes more time with washing. Well, no, that's all the same. Just kidding. So you also have to wash and prepare and package all your food, right? So that's all the same. Now, CSA is preparing a box. A market is spending driving to, setting up, and spending so many hours at a farm stand. Now, it's just choosing what you want to do. I think if you've never done anything, a farm stand is a great thing to do, even if you're going to do 1 or 2 CSA shares, because you can take your excess to the farm stand. You get the opportunity to hear questions from your community. So I think that's really important. It gives you the opportunity to discuss different varieties you're growing and to really become an expert on a lot of things. It helps answer a lot of questions. I think there is huge value in going to farmers markets. Huge values. I do both. So I don't do one or the other. I do CSA, and probably this year I will do one market a week, I think. So keep that in mind. Now, you don't have to do every week. Say you want to do one market once a month. That's a possibility. So don't overwhelm yourself. How does the price get figured? So the price, I want you to look up CSAs in your area. You got to do some research on this, because my prices aren't necessarily going to be the prices that work best in your area. Like I said earlier, I take my price, I go right above median and below high. I like to be in this realm a little bit. So I'm not undervaluing myself, but I remain competitive. My bed's to bed. Should I go ahead and use semi-sowing sweeps in my bed before covering? If we're talking compost, Christina, it is great to feed your beds before you put them to bed, because there is life still working in them while they're sleeping. Through winter, there's definitely plenty of life in them. Feed them. I would suggest it, and then put your leaves on top. I have to go. Bye, Candace. I'd like to know how your CSA is going. So let me know if you have any direct questions. Share some pickled peppers or pasta sauces with people you meet picking up boxes. That's awesome too. Yes, I love that. All right, I'm going to scroll real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. We're going to wrap up here shortly. Having a common pickup point like that also helps like-minded people to meet. Yes, that is all part of the cooperative idea of things. With social media and everything, and I've been talking this with the group of girls I'm working with, Instagram, Facebook, all this social is great. This is a great community. I love this, but nothing beats face-to-face and solid brainstorm sessions with people or dreaming. So I like finding the like-minded people right here. I love you guys, I promise. But to have someone I can go get coffee with, or I can tell them about this dream I have, and now two of us can work together to get there, because maybe they have a similar dream and we can work together to get there. Setting up a co-op in your area I couldn't encourage it more. I couldn't. Like-minded people are the best company. Good, Catherine. I'm so glad you're getting some value from this. Thank you so much. And if you are, guys, please hit the like button. It's really helpful for us here. And share it with your friends, anyone who is interested in. I'll probably include, in the blog, I want you guys to look out for it, because it'll give a good way to describe what a CSA is to those who don't know. Because that's always the biggest question. I'm starting a CSA. They're like, what in the goodness is that? And so we want to come across in so short or so few terms that really shows them the value of it. Off topic. Didn't you say Yes. I'm here once a week, guys. So I'm trying to balance all the things, my newsletter, blog, everything. So I'm doing my best, I promise. Hydroponic. I do not know any hydroponic CSAs, but welcome. You might be the first. That's awesome. Lynn, Google around. See if you have any in your areas. Use YouTube. YouTube is a huge resource. See if someone is doing it. I also think that's really important. In any venture I'm doing, you do not need to recreate the wheel. You just got to decorate it, right? So don't think that there's not information out there that's going to help you structure something. In the farming and just the way we like to live, sharing is so important, right? It helps others learn. I'm so glad that something I've done and the lessons I've had to learn, I can help others not have to learn them the hard way. So find the information, share the information, figure out a structure, and just add your value, add you to it. So decorate your wheel. You don't have to recreate it. Brussels sprouts. I didn't forget you, I promise. Someone is having a little trouble growing Brussels sprouts. Now I want to know when you're growing them. I've had hit or miss seasons. 2 seasons ago was actually great. It was off a lot of neglect. I put my Brussels sprouts in late even. I put them in like end of summer, and I harvested on them in the winter. That was probably my best Brussels sprout year. And this past, I was like, oh, I'm ready for this. I'm going to have Brussels sprouts earlier. So I put them in so early, like before frost was over early, and I barely have Brussels sprouts on them, and they're still in the ground, but I'm expecting to get them probably in the winter. Now in my area, I'm in zone 5B, 6A-ish, depending on what day it is. And I think I'm going to do the summer again. I'm not going to have Brussels sprouts until winter, so I'll plant them in the summer, like as it's starting to cool, and I'll harvest in the winter. Brussels sprouts, I think, are pretty heavy feeders. Make sure you are fertilizing. I just use a fish emulsion. And then my other suggestion is Luke has this awesome video on pruning your Brussels sprouts. That is a huge tool. So on the search bar in YouTube, in like the MIgardener page, there's a magnifying glass. Click that and click Brussels sprouts in there, and you'll learn how to prune them to promote sprout growth. And that was a huge help when I learned that. Kyle, let me know what other questions regarding it. Did I help? I can help more if not. When we moved in the old neighborhood, I met my neighbors because we were always in the yard garden, then seeing us grow. Oh, I love that. Their garden encouraged their neighbors to grow a garden. I love it. You know, offer your services in that way. If you want to help people set gardens up, that's a value. Offer that service. If you want to help people grow from seed, that's a value. Like, I have a friend who's hosting a seed starting workshop, and so she's going to have a few people come in. It's a paid workshop. They're going to learn, how to start in soil blocks as well as trays. And then they have the option of taking their items with them to grow at home, or renting a space on her shelf for her to grow out and care for their seedlings until it's planting time. That's another really great idea. If you don't want to produce or offer produce all year long, maybe you want to do a seedling sale like that. That's another good option. I had a lot of bottom branches drop this year. You should be cutting them, Kyle, before they drop. If you mean by drop as in they've wilted and dropped, they should be trimmed before they get to that point. That way your stalk has the room to grow the sprouts. Will you ever have a time where you don't have enough to fill your box? Sure, it happens. There's crop failures, there's droughts, there's... honestly, I'm pretty sure we went through all of it last year. Too much rain, not enough water, things that just decided not to grow. We went through all of it. Now this is I will look and read. And Kyle, come back next week. If you don't find the answers you need, come back with more questions, and I'll do my best to help you out there again. This is where the cooperative mindset comes into place. So if I know what I'm growing, and I know the people in my area who also grow gardens, and I'm like, my tomatoes just aren't here this week, and I really thought they were going to be, or they're not producing, I didn't produce enough. Well, I'm going to call up Jackie, and I'm going to be like, Jackie, I need some extra tomatoes. Do you have any to spare? They need to go in my box. I'm going to pay you for them. Exactly what they cost to go in my box. And now my box is full, and I'm going to give a shout out to Jackie and her Instagram and say, I'll just say, tomatoes sponsored by Jackie, or just point out that they came from her. And that's not a bad thing. Now you're going to want to make sure you're including people with like-minded practices. I wouldn't necessarily call someone up who is growing with chemicals, because that's not I value my box, and I advertise my box as all organic, and I'm going to make sure that's what I supply my customers, even if it doesn't come from my garden. My friend is growing herbs for us this year. That's another good point. So she is going to be mentioned on my website, and people will know that's where the herbs are coming from, eggs, etc. So yes, there's definitely options. I have a huge Tupperware bin. That's awesome, Jenny. I like it. Very cool. It's hard to start over, but just think of how cool it is that you have the opportunity to change all the things and to try new things. I think that's an incredible opportunity. So starting over is great. You know, glass full all the time, not half empty. Glass is full. You get to learn all over. You get to learn a new area, or you get to practice a new method. I think that is a huge blessing in life. All right, guys. We are done. Thanks, Sue. That's awesome. Anyway, make sure you guys are liking this video for me. It's really, like I said, it's helpful. Share it with your friends. Oh, it's not done yet. I'm working on it. North Star, as soon as my website is ready, I will share it with you guys just so you guys can have an idea of what it looks like. It's not there yet. I can grow all the things, but I cannot grow a website. It's hard. It takes me a lot of time, so. All right, I hope you have a wonderful week. Come back next week. I want to know if anyone's going to give it a go. Come back with extra questions. We can do kind of like a follow-up in case something came up that you didn't get to ask. It's twice as big as it needs to be. Yes, but that's good. It's full, right? You just got to look on the bright side. Yeah, let me know if you guys are doing it. If you have any questions, what you can add to it, anything. Come back with more questions. We'll do a quick, like the beginning of the show, we'll do follow-up on the CSA, and then we'll dive into something new. Awesome.